Good morning, class 8 students. Today we are going to study a new chapter, Understanding Laws. In this chapter, we are going to study the importance of rule of law, which means all are equal before the law. In the eyes of law, all are equal. And how do new laws form? How do new laws form? And after the formation of a law, if the laws are not favorable for the people, how the people will be able to change the laws? All these matters we will discuss in this chapter. We know that the Constituent Assembly makers, they were well aware about the British rule for a long period of time in India. When British people ruled India, we faced so many problems because their laws were favorable for only one side, that is British people. So the Indian Constituent Assembly members, they thought of creating a rule of law. They are never ready to create arbitrary exercise of power in India. They never want to allow government of India, the independent India. In the independent India, there should be no arbitrary exercise of power. That means no one-side rule. Government want to make a rule equally favorable for all the sections of society. In India, we know that majority people are Hindus, but still, government or the Indian Parliament should not make any law in favor of only Hindus. Whenever Parliament makes a law, that should be favorable for all sections of society. Everyone should be equal in the eyes of law. Before the law, everyone is equal. Let us see here, as per the Indian Constitution, all are equal. The law cannot discriminate anyone. In India, the law cannot discriminate anyone on the basis of his language, on the basis of his religion, on the basis of his caste, color, sex, like that. Everyone want to get equal treatment. In the eyes of law, everyone want to be equal. Whatever may be the status of the people. Some people will be there as high class people. So in India, whatever may be the status, whatever may be the status of the people, whether high class or low class, men or women, rich or poor, high class officials or ordinary people, whoever may be, everyone want to be treated equally in the eyes of law. Everyone want to enjoy the same law. Law cannot discriminate any Indian citizen on the basis of his language, religion, caste, creed, color, sex, like that, or on the basis of social status also. So we know that actually in the ancient India, we know that lots of laws were there. These all were unwritten laws. And in ancient India, we know that in the society different classes existed. Different classes or different caste groups existed. These different caste groups had different powers. On the basis of these powers, they were able to execute these laws. And moreover, punishment also was different. In present day India, we know that actually as per the Indian Constitution, all are equal before the eyes of law. So if a high class person and a low class person, if both are committed same crime, same type of crime, same punishment will be available. But in ancient period, it was not like that. In ancient India, it was not like that. For upper class people, even though if they committed severe crime, punishment was so poor punishment, so less punishment only given. And on the same time, if a low class person committed a crime, the punishment which he has got was so severe, so brutal. So that means punishment was also available as per the social status of the people, as per the degree, as per the status of the people, as per the caste groups. We know that Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, such caste groups existed. And moreover, these caste groups got punishment on the basis of their social status also, even though if they committed crimes. This situation existed in the ancient India. Many laws were there, different caste groups were there, and also different communities enjoyed different degrees of autonomy, that is power, to execute the laws. And moreover, punishment was also like that. And we know that in India, it is believed that Britishers brought rule of law, introduced rule of law, equal punishment, and there is equality in the eyes of law. Britishers brought this. It is believed that, but historians have disagreements with these opinions because they said that British rules were arbitrary laws. British laws were arbitrary laws. So even though it is believed that British people still believe that in India, Britishers only brought the idea of rule of law. That is equal punishment or equal treatment in the eyes of law for all the people. Whoever may be the people, whatever may be their social status, but everyone will be treated in the eyes of law equally. Whether upper class or lower class, whether rich or poor, whether men or women, white or black, whoever may be, everyone will be treated equally in the eyes of law. This policy, this idea introduced in India by Britishers. It is believed that. But historians have a different opinion. Because in India, Britishers made many laws. All these laws were arbitrary laws. That means these laws gave favor only for Britishers. These laws were against the interest of Indian people, but these laws gave priority to British people, more better treatment for British people. That's why actually historians have a disagreement. And moreover, Indian nationalists also strongly demanded. They actively worked for making rule of law or equal treatment in the eyes of law. Indian nationalists also, they also did not remain silent. They also worked actively for developing rule of law in the policy of rule of law in India, and also in equal treatment in the eyes of law in India. So it is not only the contribution of Britishers in India, the rule of law is existing at present. It is because of the active participation of Indian people, active work of the Indian nationalists. We know that actually one example of arbitrary law of British, Sedition Act, which was introduced in 1870. Because British laws, historians say that British laws were arbitrary laws which give importance for only Britishers, not for Indians. If a law want to be considered as, actually if rule of law is existing in a country, if a country want to be called as a rule of law nation, then all the people want to be treated equally in the eyes of law. No upper class, no lower class, no special consideration for any section of society. But British law considered that means only the Britishers. So, one example, let's see here, Sedition Act of 1870. As per this act, if any Indian criticized British government was able to arrest that person, imprison, and brutally tortured. As per this act, Sedition Act 1870, any Indian who protested against the British government was arrested, detained, and imprisoned, brutally punished. As per this Sedition Act. That is why we can say that it is not the rule of law is not the contribution of Britishers in India. The Indian nationalists protested for a change. When British government introduced Sedition Act, no Indian was able to criticize British government. Whatever may be their rule, whatever may be their attitude towards Indians, Indian people want to accept that. Bear burden, Indian people. And so, Indian nationalists protested against such British Act, British law of British government. That is Sedition Act. Indian nationalists demanded for a change. And we know that by the end of the 19th century, Indian legal profession also demanded respect in colonial court. That is, whenever British government makes law, in this law, with the help of this law, should give priority to British government, it should give priority to the Indians. That is, this law should support Indians as well as the British government, not only to British government. By the end of the 19th century, Indian legal profession also started to emerge and demanded respect in colonial courts. Which means actually, whenever British government makes laws, this law should consider Indian people also. Indian people also want to get better treatment. And Indian judges also began to play a greater role in making decisions. That is, Indian judges also started demand for rule of law. So we can say that by seeing all these examples, we can say that it is not only the contribution of British people, British government in India, the rule of law. Rule of law evolved in India through many ways. because of the demand of Indian nationalists, because of the active play of Indian judges, and also there is the criticism of Indian people. That is, all the Indian people want to get better treatment, because we have an example, we have seen that 1870 Sedition Act treated Indian people in a separate way, in a different way. So we can say actually, after being republic in India, now Indian Parliament makes new laws. After 1950, Indian Parliament started making new laws and already created laws. The Constituent Assembly members wrote many laws in Indian Constitution. These laws revising. The Indian Parliament is revising now. Every year the Indian Parliament is creating new laws for giving equal treatment for all sections of society. One example is Hindu Succession Act 2005. This is one example that Indian Parliament made one law for treating all the people alike in a family. So as per this Hindu Succession Amendment Act 2005, in a family, daughters, mothers, sons, all these members will have equal right on family property. Equal right on parental property. Father, daughters, sons and their mothers will have equal right on parental property. So we know that actually rule of law evolved through many ways. It is not only the contribution of British government, it is because of the active role of Indian nationalists, Indian judges, the active participation, active criticism of Indian people. Only the rule of law evolved. Rule of law means equality in the eyes of law. Equality before the law. Everyone want to be treated equally before the law. That is called rule of law. Now let us see the topic. How do new laws come about? We know that in India, Parliament is a supreme law-making body, and so many procedures are there for making laws also. So we know that actually how Parliament makes laws. Different social groups of the country, like different religious groups, caste groups, language group, different sections of society, they may raise different demands. Whenever they face a dilemma, problem in society, they may make strikes, criticism against the government, and newspaper articles will be there about their problems, miseries, like that. When they raise their demands continuously, government will notice and parliamentary members, elected representatives will look into the matter, opposition political party will rise and support the people, and finally parliament will be forced to make a law in favor of such a social group. So many laws are made, parliament is making many laws every year. For what? To satisfy different sections of society. Whenever people make demands, whenever people raise demands, whenever they make strike, criticism, and also whenever they make movements to satisfy the people, parliament makes laws. We know that actually when parliament makes laws, so many procedures are there. First reading, second reading, committee stage, report stage, that means voting, approval of the, that means president. All these matters want to be followed in Lok Sabha, and all these procedures want to be followed in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Let's see here one example. One law, how a law comes about, especially Domestic Violence Act 2005. Let's see here, what is domestic violence? Domestic violence means injury or harm or threat of harm, threat of injury or harm. Injury, physical injury, creating or that means causing physical injury or harm. Otherwise, threat to make injury or harm by an adult male against women of the same family. So here, injury or harm, threat of injury or harm by an adult male against women of the same family. This is called domestic violence. Let's see here two types of injury: physical beating and abusing. Normally, in some of the rural areas, we have seen that male members, adult members, family adult males, they used to drink alcohol, and after drinking alcohol, when they come back to the family, they used to use dirty words. Abuse means using dirty words against their wives or other adult males of the family, or physically they used to beat. All these comes into the category of domestic violence. Sometimes not only the husband, even adult sons also used to treat in a bad way the mother or sisters. This also will come into the category of domestic violence. We know the two types of injury: physical beating and abusing. And three types of abuse is there: verbal abuse, that is using dirty words; sexual abuse; and also economic abuse, to bring more money from wife's family, to get more dowry. This is called actually economic abuse. Or sometimes husbands beat or use dirty words against wives for getting more money from them. All this will come into economic abuse. So there are three types of abuse: verbal abuse, sexual abuse, and also economic abuse. So here, when women continuously for many years in India, women face these kind of problems. So they start to make struggle against the government. Many movements they organized, women's or movements, feminist movements organized, and finally government of India passed a law in 2005 to give protection for women in the families. This law is called Domestic Violence Act. As per this act, if any Indian, especially adult male in family, if they use dirty words against the adult males in the family, or if they physically injure or harm, threat, if they give threat to the adult women in the family, they will be punished by the court of law. So this is the way one law came about. Whenever people face a problem, they used to make strike against the government. They used to arrange a movement against the government policies. So the parliamentary members will make a law for giving protection for such a category of people. So as per this Domestic Violence Act, now in India, Indian families, women are totally protected. Now let's see here, unpopular and controversial laws. Suppose when parliament makes a law, if this law is not favorable for one section of society, what the people can do? Sometimes when parliament makes a law, it may be favorable for one section of society and it may have other section of society. So when people feel that the existing law, the parliamentary made law is not suitable for one section of society, that particular group of people, particular section of society can make strike against the government. Newspaper, news channels or media will highlight the matter, opposition political parties will take up the matter, and finally a mass movement will be organized against the parliamentary made laws. So whenever parliament make a law, it should be constitutional. Unconstitutional laws have no validity. Supreme Court of India can interfere in such kind of matter. And moreover, whenever parliament makes a law, if it is not favorable for one section of society, if one group of people continuously make criticism against the government, against the parliament, and also if they make movement, if media highlight the matter, if opposition political parties take up the matter, the Supreme Court of India can interfere in the matter. Supreme Court will deeply study the case, study the matter, and if it is needed, Supreme Court can declare or ask the parliament to modify the law or to change the law and make a new law. Supreme Court can interfere in the matter. Supreme Court will ask the parliament to modify the already made law or to make a new law for giving favor for all sections of society. That is what we can say, that sometimes when parliament makes a law, it may not be favorable for one section of society, it may be favorable for only one section, it may not be favorable for other section of society. In such cases, the people who feel that the law made by parliament is not favorable for them, in such cases they would make strike against the government and put pressure on government and parliament to make changes in the law. Normally, if people make strike or movement, parliament may make modification in the law or change the law and make a new law. If parliament is not willing to change, not willing to modify, in such cases, Supreme Court will interfere in the matter. Supreme Court, to avoid violence in the nation. Because if parliament is not willing, finally people may make violence and it may lead to bloodshed, anarchy, so many such kinds of complications will be created. In order to avoid such kinds of problems, Supreme Court will interfere in the matter and Supreme Court will tell the parliament to modify the law or to make a new law. One example, let's see here. Municipal laws against street vendors. So we know that actually street vendors. They used to sell so many, that is, simple articles to millions of people. This is their means of livelihood. They used to sit on footpath and they used to sell simple articles, simple goods to the people. Millions of people used to buy goods from them with cheap rate. That is, actually, people are depending them. But if municipality made a law, if a law made for the, that means footpath should be that means given only for the people for walking, pedestrians. So here from the footpath, street vendors should be moved. So if such a law is existing, it will affect their means of livelihood. Their source of income would be lost. They would face poverty and many problems they would face. So that is, when law is actually supporting one section of society, that means it may affect the other section of society. In such cases, street vendors would go for a strike and finally court would interfere in the matter. Court would ask the parliament to make a new law for supporting, that means both the sections of society. This is the way controversial and unpopular and controversial laws are getting changed. So in this chapter we have seen actually how rule of law introduced. And moreover, we have seen actually how the parliament makes laws, and if there is any controversial law, how people can put pressure on government or parliament to change that laws. All these sections, all of you read the textbook. This is a very easy chapter and understand these topics. Thank you.